The Senate hearing room receives in this session the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, to provide clarification regarding the death of Alex Pretti, an ICU nurse at the VA Medical Center in Minneapolis. Pretti was shot and killed by federal agents while attempting to help a bystander during a Border Patrol operation. Senator Elissa Slotkin leads part of the questioning, focusing on the department's official response and the public statements made following the incident. Senator Slotkin begins her intervention by addressing Secretary Collins directly. She holds printed documents and mentions an official statement published by the VA on its social media accounts after Alex Pretti's death. The lawmaker reads excerpts from the statement, highlighting that the text attributed responsibility to Minnesota state and local authorities for the tragedy, citing failures in immigration law enforcement. Collins listens to the citations and responds that the statement was issued based on information available at that time. The senator interrupts, questioning the time interval between the incident and the official disclosure. She points out that the VA took more than 30 hours to publicly address the death of one of its federal employees. During this period, the lawmaker states videos of the incident were already circulating widely, showing that Pretti was attempting to provide aid to an injured person when he was shot. The hearing continues with Slotkin presenting information about Pretti's hiring and evaluation process. She mentions that the nurse underwent complete background verification as required for all federal employees, and that his record was deemed suitable for working in direct care of veterans. The senator questions how the department can, at one moment, attest to an employee's integrity to serve veterans, and at another, allow official statements to suggest blame on local authorities for his death. Collins responds that the VA recognizes the service provided by Pretti and that the statement aimed to contextualize the operational environment in which the incident occurred. The senator replies by asking whether the secretary considers it appropriate to use an official department account, which represents 460,000 employees, to make political statements while a federal investigation is still ongoing. The secretary states that the statement had no political intention, but rather an informative one. Slotkin then presents screenshots showing that the language used by the VA was virtually identical to statements made by the White House and the Department of Homeland Security during the same period. She asks whether Collins consulted with DHS before publishing the statement. The secretary confirms that there was coordination between agencies, as is protocol in situations involving multiple federal jurisdictions. The lawmaker questions whether this coordination included analysis of available visual evidence. Collins responds that his team reviewed preliminary reports provided by the involved agencies. Slotkin asks directly, were the videos watched before the statement was published? The secretary hesitates briefly and responds that he cannot confirm which specific materials were reviewed by each member of the communications team. The senator concludes this segment by stating that the VA's official statement did not mention Alex Pretti's character, his service to veterans, or the visual circumstances of the incident, but dedicated paragraphs to criticizing local immigration policies. She declares that this editorial choice does not reflect the values of an agency dedicated to caring for those who serve the country. Another senator takes the floor and directs the conversation to the days following Pretti's death. He mentions reports from VA Medical Center staff in Minneapolis who described an environment of deep mourning among the team. The lawmaker asks Secretary Collins what support measures were implemented for the victims' co-workers. Collins responds that the VA immediately activated its employee assistance programs, making psychological counseling and group processing sessions available for trauma. The secretary adds that schedule flexibility was offered to employees who needed time to deal with the loss. The senator asks whether this flexibility considered the fact that the medical center was already operating with staff deficits and mandatory overtime. The secretary acknowledges resource limitations in various VA units, but states that local leadership did what was possible to balance operational needs with the team's emotional well-being. The senator presents written testimonies from medical center nurses who report being asked to maintain their normal schedules despite the collective trauma. Collins responds that he was not aware of specific denials of grief-related leave. The discussion then turns to the memorial organized in honor of Alex Pretti. The senator cites internal communications suggesting that VA leadership attempted to discourage or postpone the ceremony. Collins categorically denies any interference attempt. He states that the memorial took place as planned by Pretti's colleagues and that between 300 and 400 employees attended, demonstrating the respect and admiration the nurse inspired. The lawmaker asks whether representatives from national VA leadership were present. Collins responds that the ceremony was a local event organized by the employees themselves and that regional leaders participated. The senator questions whether the secretary himself considered attending or sending a high-ranking representative from Washington. Collins explains that he judged it more appropriate to allow the local community to conduct the moment of mourning without transforming it into a political event with the presence of federal authorities. Senator Slotkin returns to the floor and presents a timeline. She contrasts the 30 hours the VA took to issue an official statement with the speed with which the White House and DHS released their versions of the incident. The lawmaker points out that while the department responsible for the deceased employee remained silent, other agencies were already building public narratives. Collins responds that internal approval processes take time and that the VA needed to coordinate with multiple parties before making a statement. Slotkin replies by asking why this coordination did not include listening to Pretti's co-workers or reviewing visual evidence before aligning with the discourse of other agencies. The secretary states that he regrets if the statement caused additional pain to those who knew and respected Alex Pretti. A third senator directs attention to the public characterizations of Alex Pretti made by political figures after his death. The lawmaker mentions that some federal government representatives referred to the nurse using terms such as domestic terrorist and murderer. He asks Secretary Collins whether the VA, as Pretti's employer, issued any statement defending its employees' character against these accusations. Collins responds that the VA does not enter into public political disputes about characterizations made by individuals outside the department. The senator asks whether the secretary considers defending the reputation of an employee killed in service to constitute political dispute. Collins clarifies that the department recognizes Pretti's service and that his direct supervisors and colleagues publicly testified about his character. The lawmaker presents Alex Pretti's performance evaluations archived in the VA's human resources system. The documents show consistently high ratings, praise from supervisors, and recognition